Hi, so it is the last uh, talk today about new features in Postgres 17. I hope you are still with me and let's jump into it. As you know, Postgres 17 was released on September 26, 2024, and it contains many significant improvements, and I would like to show you just those biggest highlights. Of course, release notes are quite huge, and it takes a long time to read them and much more time to test everything. So follow me on this quick journey through those most important changes. First and really welcomed feature improvements in vacuum memory consumptions. There was this ever-present limit of 1 GB for a memory used by vacuuming process, and this was removed, and it now uses adaptive radix trees, which means that vacuum process can store more tuple references in memory, and therefore it is no longer necessary to do multiple index scans on auto vacuum, which improves speed and efficiency of vacuuming quite significantly. There is also new configuration parameter allow alter system, which allows or forbids alter system commands. It must be changed in PostgreSQL.conf file and configuration reloaded. It cannot be changed by alter system command itself, of course. There is a new parameter for transaction timeout. And by setting this parameter, we can cancel transactions both idle or active after this configured time. But it is recommended only for session settings, not as global setting, because in some cases we need longer running transactions. This parameter is meant really as a line of defense against some problematic transactions created by users. Explain command has some new options. First of them is serialize, which shows time and memory spent for detoasting data. And this serialize option has two settings, text or binary. Text is default. There is another option for explain command called memory, and by switching it on, it will report memory usage in planning phase for the query. Postgres 17 also adds new maintain permission and corresponding PG maintain predefined role. And this permission and predefined role are meant for actions like vacuum, analyze, reindex, refresh materialized view, cluster, log table. There is also new event trigger for reindex action and login. And because of this new event trigger or login, developers added a new parameter to switch event triggers on and off. This is very useful in case of errors in some event trigger because it can prevent even login into the system. Setting this parameter does not require a restart. There are improvements in copy command for loading and extraction of data. And first of them is a new setting for action on error. So we can say in those additional parameters, ignore errors. And we can set log verbosity to verbose. So we can skip errors and at the same time get detailed information about errors in each line, which was actually skipped due to some error. And for partitioning tables, identity space for identity column is now properly shared across all partitions. And it means that values of these identity columns are now really unique across all partitions. Very much important feature is new view PG wait events, which describes wait events which are seen in PG-stat activity view. So by joining these two tables, we can get a detailed description of these wait events. Some improvements are also in monitoring and statistics. So columns related to checkpointer have been moved from PG-stat background writer to PG-stat checkpointer view. Those are columns like buffers clean, max written clean, buffers allocs, stat reset. View PG-stat vacuum progress now shows how many indexes have been already vacuumed. There are also some interesting improvements in PG-stat statements extension. Old columns, block read time, block write time have been split into multiple new columns for better granularity. So it now distinguishes local blocks and shared blocks. Local blocks meaning blocks which are private for that particular process. There are also additional columns stats since and min-max stats since, which show when those statistics have been reset. And there have been improvements in normalization of parameters in call and save point queries for better grouping. Talking about performance improvements, we must mention a simple least recently used caches, which are now separated into multiple banks with dedicated locking for each. And they have also new names for better understanding. So we now see names like commit timestamp buffers, multi-transaction member buffers, notify buffers, serializable buffers, and so on. These buffers are important for high concurrency workload, and we can now configure sizes of these caches individually. But of course, a change in sizes of these buffers requires restart. There is this view PG stat SLRU, which now contains columns blocks hit and blocks read, which allows us to estimate which cache actually should be adjusted. Looking at features important for developers, we must emphasize especially improvement in query performance for cases when we have in clause in where part of the query, which uses B-tree indexes. In older versions, if we had this subquery for in clause, data have been fetched by separate subplan, which was not exactly efficient and in some cases caused even big degradation of performance. Now this subquery in clause is handled as join, which is much more efficient. And personally, I am really looking forward to test this feature with some suitable data set because we have seen performance issues with this in clause many times in previous versions. Merge command now has option when not matched by source, and there is new option for returning whatever values we want from a merge action. So far, parallel creation of indexes was possible only for B-tree indexes. Now, this option is available also for brain indexes. There are some query plan optimization for not null constraints and some improvements in common table expressions. Those are those separate with queries. Uh, the biggest highlight in this version is incremental base backup. We all know PG base backup tool, which is used for full backup of data files on the cluster. But now we can use this tool also to do incremental backups. And those incremental backups, they store only those data blocks which have been changed and not whole data files. To achieve this functionality, uh, creators uh, add a so-called vol summarizer. It's background process which must be enabled using new parameter summarize vol equals on, and we must configure it for how long those summarize vol segments should be kept. And with this summarizer, PG base backup now knows which data blocks are changed or new from the last backup, and therefore, when we now run PG base backup, we can either say that it shall do full backup, or it shall create incremental backup. And if we want incremental backup, we must specify some existing previous backup as a reference point. This can be either full backup or previous incremental backup. So that way we can have like even line of incremental backups. And there is new tool, PG Combine Backup, which we can use to create new full backup from existing older full backup and additional incremental backups. Here is some picture which shows how these changes actually work. So we have here some old backup, full backup, additional incremental backup. We use PG Combine Backup tool to create new full backup, and we can start new Postgres with this new full backup. And by starting it, that vol summarizer will now continuously summarize vol segments behind the scene, and that way we can also get by using continuous archiving of vol segments, point in time recovery with incremental backups. Here is another picture which tries to show how vol summarizing actually works. So there is a new view PG vol summary content, which we can use for inspecting those vol summaries. And here we generally see this rel file node, which is that unique ID which is used as a name of data file for a particular table. And for each of that rel file node, it shows block numbers of changed or new blocks. And there is also function pg get vol summarizer state, which can give us state of a summarizer process itself. So these incremental backups, as I already mentioned in previous slides, must reference either full backup or another incremental backup, previous backups. If that incremental backup references some previous incremental backup, then of course we get chain of those incremental backups, and it means that PG Combine backup tool must use all of them. Otherwise, we would not get a consistent state. So by combining these features, we can create some backupping patterns. Like, for example, we can do one full backup weekly and daily incremental backups. And with those multiple incremental backups, we can still restore that database quicker than by applying all WAL files to that existing full backup. Uh, Here is important feature behind all this. This is called backup manifest. It's a file with metadata which exists in each backup done by PG-based backup. It is not a new feature in Postgres 17, but with this incremental backup option, it became really important part of that solution because it shows us starting point and end point of that particular backup. And there are also some improvements in PG dump and PG restore. So we can create some file which can list include or exclude table names, and we can now reference this file via new filter parameter, which will allows us to write those commands in a much nicer way. And there is this new synchronization method for directory format called syncfs, which makes PG dump much faster on Linux if we have a lot of files. And there are also improvements for large objects in PG dump. pgdump still requires parameter large object to include them, but there are improvements in handling this dump, so dump of large objects is now smaller and easier to handle. We also have some improvements in logical replication. And the most important is that logical replication can now continue even after failover, because there is a new synchronization of replication slots between primary and replicas. And this process sets those logical replication slots on replicas to the proper state based on situation of the master. So in case of failover, that new primary will have the same status of replication slots, and that logical replication can continue. And another very interesting improvement is that PG upgrade will now migrate subscriptions and logical replication slots, but only when we will do upgrades from version 17 to a newer version 18, 19, and so on. Unfortunately, if we will upgrade from older versions to version 17, and those logical application slots will be ignored. But anyway, this is a very important feature, and it makes future of logical replication much brighter. So when we will upgrade in the future, we will not lose existing subscriptions and logical replication slots. There is also new program PG Create Subscriber, which allows us to switch a physical standby to a logical replica. And hash indexes can now be used for replica identity to identify rows during a logical replication. And last but not least, there are improvements in JSON implementation. Especially these new functions, JSON table, JSON query, JSON value, and JSON exists have been really expected for a longer time because they simplify usage of JSON objects. Existing implementation is very powerful and it is quite performant, but syntax for using JSON queries is not exactly SQL friendly. So with these new functions, we are closer to SQL world. And especially that JSON table function can improve significantly work with complicated JSON objects because we now can, by defining columns and their data types and path inside that JSON document, extract data from even complicated JSON objects into table-like structure, which can help us really a lot with SQL queries, which can be done now over really big and complicated JSON tables, JSON objects, and we can work with extracted data as if it be normal table. So this is all. That was just a quick overview of these new topics and new features in Postgres 17. As I said, there are many new improvements. If you are interested, dive into release notes. And I plan to prepare some additional talk, especially about new JSON features. So next time I will dive into these new features deeper. Thank you very much, and I will stop recording. And if you have some questions, you can ask.